Well, guys, home prices are dropping here in Utah. In this video, we're going to talk about how much and what it means for you if you're a buyer, a seller, or maybe you're looking to invest in real estate here in Salt Lake City. Let's jump in. So to start this video off, we're actually going to be looking at some stats of what's happening in the housing market, where prices are going, where list prices are going, and what's actually happening with the days on market. We're going to look at all of that information, and then I'm also going to give you a breakdown and say, hey, here's what this means for you if you're a buyer, here's what it means if you're a seller, or maybe you're an investor in this real estate market, here's what it means for you in those scenarios. So with that said, let's jump into my screen here and take a look at this. So this is going to be the data here from July of 2022. We are currently about 21 days through the month of July, and sales are down substantially. This is probably one of the most concerning things that I'm seeing right off the bat. This number here is the number of homes that have actually sold. So it's now the 21st of July, which means that we have 10 days left of homes that could sell in the next 10 days before July is finished. But let's just take some simple math here. Let's actually pull up my calculator and let's see. We've had 1,853 sales, 1,853 sales over the last 21 days, which means you've had an average of 88 sales per day. If we times that by 31, which is how many days there are in the month of July, you're going to see that the number of sales here might only finish out at about 2,700 and some change, right? 2,735 here is what this is showing. Now, it could be a little bit higher. I actually would expect this to be a little bit closer to 2,800 because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to close right before the end of the month, which will then push out their payment, an additional month from before they have to make that first payment. So that's pretty typical in real estate to see a big jump in sales the last couple days of the month, but we're here sitting at 2,735. And, this is kind of the estimate for what we're seeing. If you look at June was actually the slowest month, the slowest June that we've had in the last 10 years here in Salt Lake City. So this is the Wasatch Front MLS system. This covers Salt Lake. This covers Davis, Weber, a little bit of Park City, and as well as like Utah County, Juab County, Tooele County. It basically covers everything kind of in northern Utah, and it will also include some of St. George as well, but not the entire thing because they're actually on a different MLS system. So with that being said, June was the slowest June that we've had in 10 years as far as the number of sales that have happened. So last June, just a month ago, we had just over 4,000 sales. If we look back at June of 2021, we had 4,900. Coming back here to June of 2020, we're actually at 5,300, which is right after COVID started. And then if we come back here to 2019, we were at 4,633. Now, taking a look at what happens in July, typically, 2019, we were at 5,000. 2020, we were at 5,800. 21, we were at 4,661, and here in July of this year, we're going to be maybe half of that. You're going to see some headlines come out and say, there's going to be a lot of people who are freaking out. Oh my gosh, sales dropped 50%. What's going on? The world is falling. We're all doomed. You're going to see a lot of that stuff. Just remember that doesn't necessarily mean that prices are also dropping. Now, we are going to talk about that because prices have dropped. That's the next thing we're going to cover here. But just keep in mind that when you see that 50% decrease, that's just in the number of sales that are happening. That's due to high prices as well as due to interest rates being significantly higher than they were just a couple months ago. So the thing I want to look at here is this column right here is going to be the original listing price. This is on a median basis. So this is across all home types, right? This is condos, townhomes, single family homes, everything from a starter home all the way up to $1 million home. This is just everything across the board. No search criteria on this. So you can see the median original list price was about $515,000. The last time we saw this number, we don't have an exact comparison, but this is kind of going back to like the pricing that we saw in April and a little bit into May. So you could say, hey, end of April, early May, this is what we were seeing about 515. However, the thing that's important to note here is that the second column is the actual sales price of those properties, right? So it tells you, hey, on average, here's what the homes are being listed for, and then here's what the homes are actually selling for. So this was at $508,000, which is only roughly 99% of the original listing price. The last time we saw this 99% number, we have to go pretty far back here, all the way back to May of 2020, just after the COVID-19 stuff hit. That was kind of like in March, April of that time frame. But we we were at 99% here, and now we're at 99% again. So it's been almost 2 years, a little bit over 2 years actually, since we last saw that homes were selling below the actual asking price. I think this is actually a really good thing. If you're a buyer in the market, you're going to be able to negotiate a little bit more heavily on a house that you're purchasing. You might get an offer in underneath the asking price. You might also be able to negotiate some closing costs as well. So I think this is actually going to be a really good thing for buyers. The last thing I want to talk about before we talk a little bit more about that, well, actually two things. Let's see here. Number one is going to be this last column is going to be median cumulative days on market. So you can see days on market, it was down in the single digits. It was consistently hitting 6 month after month. And then now we've creeped up to 9 in June, and we're sitting at 13 in July. I expect this number to climb closer to, high teens, maybe even low 20s over the next month or two as homes continue to sit on the market longer and longer. So we're sitting at 13. Again, the last time we saw, numbers that high, we saw a little bit of that in November, but during the winter, that's definitely more common where homes sit. If we come back, to kind of the summer of 2020, this is when homes were also sitting at these higher numbers, 12, 17, 18, 15 here in the summer of 2020. So it's not uncommon for homes to sit on the market. You might see or hear a lot of headlines saying, hey, homes are sitting on market for twice as long as they were. Well, yeah, going from 6 days to 12 days is, not that big of a difference. If we come back even further here, let's take a look at 2019. I mean, for all of 2019, right here, you can see it was 38, 35, 28, 20. Even during the summer, the lowest it got was 18 here in May of 2019. So having the days on market be only at 13 is definitely not a very long time, right? This is easily going to climb into the high teens, but it's not quite there yet. Hey, real quick, guys, I want to tell you about the new newsletter that I'm going to be releasing here in the next little bit. If you want to sign up for it, go and click the link in the description box below. You'll just need your name and your email, and you'll be signed up for that newsletter. Now, this is going to be a newsletter that goes out every, probably 2 to 3 weeks or so, and it's going to have some information about what's happening in Utah, what's happening with the real estate market, what's happening with interest rates, and just kind of some information about the market overall. So if you want to sign up for that newsletter and be a part of that, make sure to click that link down below, and let's get back to the video. The other thing I want to mention when you're looking at this data is if we go back here to the median sales price, you can see the median sales price was $508,000. You're going to see headlines saying, hey, home prices have come down from 540 to 508,000. Let's see if we actually take some math here. Let's see what that is. 508 divided by 540. That means that prices are going to, roughly 6% is what they've come down. So if you look at an actual statistic, you might say, hey, sales prices fell 6%. This is based off of May of 2022 data. But if we actually go back and look at when prices were selling in that 508,000 range, that really only takes us back here to February to March, right? February, it was 495, and then March, it was 520. So we saw a $25,000 increase here. But at that $508,000 mark, that really is only the same pricing that we saw back in early March, which was, about 4 months ago. So not a big change there. I think if we were at the all-time highs of 540, let's say we came down, 20% from there, that would be a drastic change. That would make us go back all the way to, early 2021. That's where we'd see a big impact with this. If we took 20% of 540, that's going to be roughly 110. So that means that we'd be at roughly 430,000, which would take us back to April or May of 2021, and that's with a 20% decrease. Now, I don't personally think that prices will go down that far, at least not this year. Who knows? 6 months out, the world could look a lot different than it does today. I actually think that prices will probably come down about 10 to 15%, and then it will really depend on, inflation and interest rates and where things head from there, as far as if they're going to continue going up or if they're going to come down. So with that being covered, I want to talk a little bit about what this means for you as a buyer. Like I alluded to earlier in the video, if you are a buyer in this market, you're going to be in a position where you have a little bit more leverage and you also have more listings to choose from. The listing inventory that we saw in May was at roughly 2,500 homes on the market. Today, we're sitting at over 8,900 homes currently on the market. So this is more than tripled, almost quadrupled in the number of listings that are on the market. So you're going to have more to choose from, and you're also going to potentially be able to negotiate a better price on that home, maybe get the price under the asking price, maybe 1, 2, 3%, and you might also be able to get the seller to cover some of your closing costs. Now, if you're a seller in this market, this is going to mean something totally different for you. You really need to be careful about what you're going to sell your home for, because right now you do not want to be unrealistic. You do not want to sit on the market and you want to sell your home and price it very aggressively. The problem with real estate sales, the way that this looks, is generally speaking, when you go to sell a home, you're going to look at what other homes in your area have sold in the last couple months. Now, when the market's going up, it's generally a pretty good idea to do this method, because it's going to say, okay, this home down the street sold for 500. The market's kind of going up. I'm going to try and sell mine for 505 or 510. But however, in a situation like this where the market is actually kind of coming down now, if you look at that past data, you might be looking at a home that sold in May, when prices were significantly higher, and that median sales price was at 540, but today it's only at 510. So it has come down pretty substantially. So if we go back and you're looking at that May data, you're going to say, hey, my home is the same as this one. It should be worth 540 as well. That's not going to be true. You need to price it more aggressively. You probably need to be at least 5 to 7% under what you think your home is worth based on the sales data that you saw from just a couple months ago. So keep that in mind if you're a seller in this market. And also on that note, I should say, hey, if you're a buyer in this market, reach out to me. If you're a seller in this market, reach out to me as well. I'll give you my unbiased opinion. You might be in a position where you should buy, you might be in a position where you should sell, or maybe not do anything at all. I'll give you just kind of my opinion based on your situation, what makes the most sense for you, and then you can kind of determine what you want to do. And I should also add that if you're a home seller and you want to get a fair idea on what your home is worth, reach out to me. I'd be happy to give you an analysis on your home and say, hey, here's what I think it will actually sell for in today's market. So just reach out to me. My information's here on the screen. Lastly, I want to talk about what it means to be an investor in this real estate market. Now, if you're sitting on the side, you're looking at investing in real estate, there's a couple different ways to go about this. I've talked numerous times on this channel about house hacking, which is basically where you purchase, let's say, a duplex and you live in one side and rent out the other. I still think that's a great idea. That's what I've done personally. I actually did that 4 different times in 4 different houses, and I think it's something that can really help you build wealth, especially if you're trying to be a new investor in this market. So definitely look at that option if it will work for you in your own situation. Now, let's say that you're just, maybe you already own a home and you're just looking at trying to get a real estate investment property. Well, you really want to look at this 2 different ways. One, you could purchase a property that's currently on the market, or number 2, you could actually keep the home that you have and move into a new one and then just keep the old one as a rental property, therefore being able to keep the loan that you already have on that property and then just go out and buy a new home. This is kind of a good thing because, hey, you get a new home, you can get a new location, new area, but you also have your home ideally at a low interest rate depending on when you purchased it, and you'll be able to capitalize on that and really continue to gain the benefits of that as rents continue to increase. So that might be another option for you to consider. If you're just looking at purchasing property, let's say you're not planning on moving, you just want to stay where you're at and you're looking for deals, definitely make sure to add in a little bit of extra margin on those deals to make sure that it's going to be a good long-term investment. If you're looking at investing in today's market, you need to be really, really sure about your numbers, and you also need to make sure that you're planning for the long term on these different types of investments. It's a little bit too uncertain to say what's going to happen, and I think there's probably a bigger downside risk that prices will come down rather than continue to appreciate, at least in the short term. However, I feel pretty dang confident that over the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, home prices are going to continue to go up here in Salt Lake. They may come down for the short term, but they're going to continue to climb after that. And your $500,000 home could be a $600,000 home. And also, if interest rates come back down, you could refinance in the future, and that's going to further help your numbers on that investment property. So with all that being said, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give me a thumbs up on the video and consider sharing this video with a friend or a family member who might be interested in learning more about what's happening in Utah's real estate market. And lastly, if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, reach out to me. Like I said earlier, I'd be happy to give you kind of a free consultation, give you my advice on what you should do, and then you can kind of make that decision and see if it's the right choice for you and your family. With all that being said, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next one.